Righty, welcome to another episode of the Lockdown Podcast, continuing to pick apart Raw, SmackDown, and most recently Backlash in a smothering of other things that I think need to be addressed. So let's just run it as we do. We had Raw kickoff with Seth Rollins coming out and basically chirping to Braun Breaker. And obviously that whole debacle breaks down. Obviously they do what they do to build towards matches and have a whole thing break out. Obviously Braun Breaker gets the last laugh with a bunch of spears. Now we've been questioning, and I think everybody's been questioning the conversation that Finn had with Roxanne Perez a couple weeks back, and basically kind of getting in her head about, the Judgment Day basically not really being what they say they are. And so we have a JD McDonough versus Finn Balor match. And obviously we have the Judgment Day ringside, which we all know there's going to be outside involvement. It is a shoo-in. It is a tale as long as time. They did it with Damian. They did it with Rhea. It is just how they're going to run it. I hope that this does not drag out for any longer than it needs to. I really honestly think that, after, let's say, less than 6 months of this bullshit, we have Finn go to the other brand and do what Finn does. Because this doesn't need to go on any longer than it needs to. Because no one cares. Okay? No one really cares about the Judgment Day crap because it's been the same thing for years and years and years. It hasn't changed the format. It hasn't changed the game plan. Hasn't changed how they do matchups and get outside involvement. It is nothing new. And again, this does not need to go on any longer than it needs to. Now, we had this match back at WrestleMania with obviously Penta in the ladder match and a smothering of guys in that match. And it seemed like he was kind of going back through like singles matches with these guys the last couple weeks. And somehow, obviously, with us, with the Ethan Page getting called to the main roster, basically gets involved in this whole debacle. And we end up getting an Ethan Page and Rusev match versus Penta and Javon Evans. Obviously, face versus heels. It's a similar recipe they've used for a millennium. And so we actually see Ethan Page and Rusev win, and Ethan Page pins Penta. And if that has taught us anything, and again, the tale as long as time, is now we're probably going to get some kind of match maybe this week, definitely by next week, that we're going to get Ethan Page versus Penta. I don't see Ethan Page winning. I feel like they're going to run this Penta thing as long as they can. But we'll see how it goes, because whatever ChatGPT says is what the WWE does, because that's who they ask for advice now. It's like having a robot in the meetings and them just asking, "Hey Alexa, what do you think?" Because that's what WWE's become now. There's not much input on creative nowadays. Now it's just shoddy, it's unexciting, and it's just boring. Period. So I guess we'll see what becomes of that. Now, we had the emergence of Sol Ruca, another NXT call-up, previous weeks. I think it's maybe 2 weeks ago. Right. And so we get her interrupting Becky Lynch. And this obviously leads, again, the same recipe that's the tale as old as time. We get basically the contract signing, which I contract signings are the dumbest thing ever. They end the same way 99% of the time. And it's unnecessary, because why is it Nick Aldis or Adam Pearce can say it's official and it's official, and you don't need contract signings, guys. It's a shoddy attempt at a segment that tries to build up a match that doesn't make much sense. And so amongst all of the contract signing, Becky Lynch goes to hit Sol Ruca, ends up hitting Adam Pearce. Now, I don't know what will become of this. I think there might be some repercussions from Adam Pearce in regards to Becky. Maybe this is just a setup for Becky to get screwed at whenever they have this match. They haven't really given a time frame or when this match was supposed to happen. It'll probably just on Raw, nothing top tier that it needs to be. Now, after the last couple weeks when Joe Hendry had the greatest song of all times, the Billboard top charts, Fire Logan Paul is a great track. If you haven't listened to it or haven't heard it, dude, it's a banger. It is everything that I have hoped and dreamed for pretty much the length of Logan Paul being in WWE. And I've not held back.
Fair.
And so for Joe Hendry to say what everyone's thinking, clutch. But so this leads us into having a match where Logan Paul wanted the match against Joe Hendry, but Paul Heyman's like, no, you're heated. So then Austin Theory goes against Joe Hendry. And in, again, typical fashion, I feel like 1 in 5 matches are clean in WWE. And it's just sad. Like it really is. Like, we don't know the true talent or the longevity or stamina of wrestlers because literally there's interference all the time. Right. And this matchup was no different. Obviously, we get Logan Paul involved, and so that happens, and then we get the Street Profits involved, and then Braun Breaker gets involved, and Seth Rollins gets involved, and we're just on this spiral with the Vision where they can't complete a match. There's just interference all the time, and it's just annoying.
Yeah,
I've lobbied so hard for, like, just give me a good match and everybody go home. Like, no interference, but it's again, they're probably asking ChatGPT what they think. Now Obafemi is basically started this. I mean, he introduced it 2 weeks ago in regards to the Obafemi Open Challenge. Obviously came out last week, obviously offered the Open Challenge, and it was kind of funny because you almost thought it was going to be Akira Tozawa. and
almost.
You know, and it's laughable that Akira Tozawa has a job, probably because he probably took a hella pay cut like WWE and TKO. Well, it's more TKO than WWE at this point. They might as well just change it to whatever TKO stands for. But and so we end up getting Obafemi versus Otis. And honestly, I mean, not to quote Booker T, but you know I like to say it, but
yep,
no bread, no water, just meat. and so, you know, and I mean, you can't deny how strong Obafemi is, okay? Like, you look at some of these bigger guys in the past, and they really weren't strong. They were just big, right? Like, if you think of, like, Giant Gonzalez, he was just tall. Omos was just tall. The Big Show was just tall. I mean, Kane was just tall. You know, and you see these guys, and that's all they were. They were just a big presence. Obafemi is a big man, but he's strong. And I don't care how you slice it, and people online were chirping about the slight slip up by Otis on his left leg on the rope and slipped a little bit, and they had to readjust it. But, like, people, you don't realize that there's matches upon matches inside of these rings, and guess what? You see the guy sweat. Where do you think that sweat goes? On the ropes. And so, and WWE wrestlers have said it for forever, as long as, again, a tale of old time, that those ropes are slippery sometimes, and that's what it is. And so, a light slip. But guess what? I want to see any of you, even these strong freaking jocks. I want to see you lift a 300 and something pound dude, and not even just when he did the fall from grace, but when he literally picked him up and just threw him. Okay, probably threw him 5-6 feet like he was nothing.
Yeah,
like that is strength you can't fabricate. And then obviously ends up, getting on the, getting him on the first rope, obviously, or the second rope, and ends up leading us to the fall from grace for the victory. And I'm okay with this. We've said this many of times, is that, we talked about it last week with the whole, him beating Brock Lesnar, and that doesn't mean that he's going to be pushed to the upper echelons quick just because he had the one good match. And so now I want to see him run roughshod. I want to see him give whoever they want to throw at him, and just have him absolutely obliterate them. And then once we get that, then you work from there. And then you start giving him more longevity matches versus squash matches, and then you start seeing him continue to succeed. And then it's only fitting that he would get to the upper echelons. And that's something that's going to take some time, but that's okay. Obafemi got time. Yep. So next, obviously, we had the interview with Asuka and Io. Not a whole lot to say about that. They were talking in their language, and it was just basically closed caption. So just the build to their match and the intensity and the history. That's basically the premise of what it was. Now, before they came out, so you had the original El Grande Americano, aka Chad Gable, come out with what can only be viewed as kind of insulting, but like the Creed brothers in masks. And like, it's so culturally insensitive that lucha wrestling it has a certain class and a certain prestige and a certain history and a certain, energy to it. And for basically anybody just to throw on a mask as a goof, I feel like is insulting. Okay, it's bad enough Chad Gable has portrayed this El Grande Americano and then gets hurt, and then we get Ludwig Kaiser, who actually speaks like 4 languages, guys. And he can actually play the part, and he played it a million times. El Grande Americano wouldn't be a thing without Ludwig Kaiser, period. Because Chad Gable can't speak Spanish. He doesn't even sound like, he just sounds like his normal self. There's nothing special about anything. But I digress. But so we get the original El Grande Americano and the Creed brothers versus El Grande Americano and Los Americanos. Weirdly enough, obviously the original El Grande Americano and the Creed, it literally lists the Creed brothers on the WWE website. It doesn't even say whatever they are, Hermanos, whatever they were supposedly calling them on TV. But and obviously this is obviously all just good build between the Americanos, obviously leading into the mask versus mask match May 30th in AAA, which I am absolutely looking forward to. And we can finally get rid of Chad Gable's mask and move the hell on. Go be Chad Gable.
Right.
But yeah, so however they want to build this match, whatever. But so the last bit obviously we had was, the contract signing between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. I will say honestly, like, out of all the matches that happened at Backlash, this was the one that honestly had the most legitimate build. This honestly, like, the Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu like build of this match was probably better than 90% of the builds for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad when this match seemed to have more weight than, again, a majority of the matches at WrestleMania. Like, let that sink in. Like, whatever with having the heritage and the family bloodline stuff, like, they're telling a story and they're telling it very well. And a lot of the things Jacob's saying are honestly true. There's reality mixed in, with this storyline, and he's telling it well. Obviously, Roman is, the OTC, and so, like, this matchup just had so much good build for Backlash. Now, speaking of not good build, but like, so SmackDown kicked off with Jacob coming out, followed by the Usos, and I don't like the Usos playing Roman Reigns' bitches. And that's the only, like, even though Roman was like, I want you to be beside me, not underneath me, blah, blah, blah. But, like, it only works one way. Yeah. Like the bloodline initial, like, thing with Roman and the Usos, it only works one way. And so regardless of what Roman says about him, being equals, they're not. Because we've seen week in and week out, all of a sudden 1 second we'd see Roman and Jacob, and then all of a sudden the next night we would see the Usos going out on behalf of Roman and just defending him and basically just doing what they did before.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, you're saying one thing, but the storyline's telling something else.
You can't, like, go back and forth with that. You've got to, like, either cut them loose and just let the Usos just do what Usos do, or it's like, yeah, continue on, like they just fall in line, you know what, I don't know how I feel about that.
Like I said, it's not a bad thing, because the story for those 4 years was great,
right?
They were basically kind of like the Authority.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, yeah, I'm the one that puts food on y'all table, I'm this, I'm that. And so, like, it's not that I didn't like, the bloodline stuff, but, like, I also want something different. I want a little bit different, but it's like, it seems like lately it's just, they're all playing the safe characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one's surprising me with something different. Solo's doing the MFTs things, with the exception of 2 of his guys, because they got released, gone. Yeah. You have Gunther doing the same thing Gunther's been doing. You have Seth Rollins essentially doing the same thing he's been doing. I mean, everybody's playing their characters and their roles very complacently. And
but maybe it's supposed to be that way, because they don't have, like, really solid plans for anybody, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, they're just playing their characters as they've been instructed to do.
They're on cruise control.
Yeah, cruise control is a really great way of saying,
And I mean, and obviously we're just outside of WrestleMania, obviously, and now we're just outside of Backlash. So I mean, like I feel like you almost need to have that lull between, obviously, WrestleMania and the next big one,
Mhm.
because really the next big thing isn't till the middle of the year. Um, so I mean, I guess if they have to have this lull, I guess, and kind of play reset, um, I guess I'm good with that. But now I just get done saying reset, and next match we had was Tiffany Stratton versus Kiana James, which is again a match we've had before in regards to the Women's United States Championship. And they're just not doing anything with the Women's United States Championship. It's a round robin tournament between the same 4 to 5 people, and I don't like this lull because I
Mhm.
feel like the secondary titles, for as long as WWE's been around and they've had these titles, they were very workhorse related. They were opportunistic. They presented new matchups and new champions and stuff like that. But with the women's division not having as many people on the roster, and obviously with WWE just releasing people left and right like they're people walking the plank,
Yeah.
I mean, the roster's kind of depleted. And it's not that there's not people still there, it's just that they don't utilize them. And if you're not involved in stories that work for you on one brand, they should just ship them to the other one and vice versa, and shake up the roster like they used to. Like, screw away with the draft. I don't care about the draft. The draft is a mute point because it's open season at this point. So I think we really need to see kind of a roster shake up. Maybe Tiffany Stratton does, kind of like what Sammy did, in mantra of John Cena and Carmelo Hayes did. Have open challenges. Like, even if you still retain, I don't care. I just want to see new matchups.
But I think there's a problem with that because WWE may be being really protective of their characters and of the athletes. Um, but there also has to come a point where, you know, you've got to you've got to have like some type of, I don't know, you've got to have some type of something excitement because the open challenge just seems to be worn out. Is I need to see an open challenge that gives me new direction. Like Tiffany Stratton has an open challenge and she
Right.
loses cleanly. Um or I need to have an open challenge and it turns into like a brawl or disqualification where
Yeah.
we if you're going to use that as a weapon. Maybe it's
Ac-
an open
yeah.
challenge from someone else that's like on a completely different brand, like someone from like NXT shows up.
Yeah.
You know
And
what
I
I'm saying?
think, yeah. And I think pretty much what you're getting at is that they are playing round robin with a couple of wrestlers, and if they were going to do something of an angle of an open challenge, have it be a legitimate open challenge. You have TNA, you have AAA, you have NXT, you have Raw, SmackDown. You got 5 freaking brands. Figure it out. You got the depth of roster. I don't care if freaking Tatum Paxley shows up. Like, I just I think what you're basically gathering is that it needs to be a true open challenge, not
Yeah,
not just because when Sammy was doing it for a little while, it was okay, and then Carmella was kind of doing a little bit, but it's like it got to a point where like it really wasn't an open challenge. One, they were literally deducing a conversation and back, and then like, yeah, sure, you get a chance. Like,
Yeah.
and so like, or they wanted to run it back with Ilya, or they wanted to run it back with Carmelo, like, and they got in this like revolving door of like 3 to 4 wrestlers just spin the wheel, you know, and so these open challenge, I feel like open challenges need to be a legitimate open challenge.
Right. They do.
So,
Yeah.
now the next match we had of the night was Tala Tonga versus Damian Priest. Um, I don't know what the actual build was to this match, just because the men's tag team champions, obviously on SmackDown, they've kind of, R-Truth and Damian Priest have kind of had a little bit of a lull as far as their matchups. And obviously it's weird for him to face off, Damian Priest to face off against Tala Tonga, just because the MFTs need to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they lost JC Mateo and Tungaloa, and so like there needs to be a reforming of this, because it's only 3 of them at this point now, and the bloodline, like, and I don't even know why they even released who they did. Maybe they were also under one of those contract negotiation crap, and they're like, yeah, no, deuces.
Yeah.
And because JC Mateo was very misutilized.
Yeah.
And
That's
and I said this last week about the fact that like you bring in this hot free agent, and then you stick him in a group to get lost in translation and to get your talent very depleted and misused, because he's a great performer by himself with an exuberant skill set and a history in the business, and you stick him in a group. I honestly think like these new people showing up need to be by them damn selves, because you look at some of the NXT call-ups, Javon by himself, phenomenal. Obafemi by himself, phenomenal. Ethan Page by himself, phenomenal. And so like it does something negative to you when they throw you basically in a bag, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like you're trying to have a 3-legged race with the whole group trying to achieve anything. And it's fine, obviously, with Tala Tonga, with those guys, because they're actually related and they're actually part of the actual bloodline type of thing. JC was on the outside just because he was, I believe he was, what's the term, like Pacific Islander or something of that nature.
Yeah, he's Hawaiian.
Y-
Hawaiian.
You know,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
And so, like, it didn't even fit for him to be there. And it just seemed like he wasn't happy to be there. And I feel like you could just kind of see it if you really want to kind of dig into the archives. It just looked like JC Mateo never hit his stride, because they put him in a shitty storyline, and now he's released, and all that excitement we had when oh my gosh, JC Mateo, and then all of a sudden,
Mhm.
Jeff Cobb's basically got freaking railed, because
Yeah.
he's not he was, I mean, I know obviously everybody's done tag team stuff, but like Jeff Cobb was a boulder by himself.
Yeah.
He didn't need to be part of a group. We could be having a similar conversation if Jeff Cobb was by himself like Obafemi was. We could have had something like that where he shows off his strength, his skill set, and we could have worked a match, with those two or something. Like, I mean, there was so many possibilities, and again, they buried him. Now,
Yeah. Yeah. And perhaps he didn't do himself any favors. Um, yeah, perhaps he didn't do himself any favors. Um, with that being said, I still think it's like it's unfortunate, because you know there you just when you misuse someone, it's like what could have been, of all the things, like what could have been. And yeah, I just I feel kind of like I feel bad for him, but at the same time, he's not gonna have any problem getting work, none at all. So yeah, that's it.
I believe there was chatter of
Hmm.
TNA, I believe, with him. But again, I think that's a lot of journeys because, and what's weird is TNA is essentially owned by WWE. So it's like, it's weird that they couldn't just, they release someone to go to a company that's within the umbrella. Um, but no. So speaking of repetitiveness, so we have Cody come out, obviously doing what Cody does, being the corporate champion, the ass kisser, the brown noser, the
Hmm.
I get things because I am QB1, quote unquote.
Hmm.
But I'm over Cody. I think we're all over Cody. Hashtag over Cody. Um, but so we get Gunther comes out, and obviously Gunther puts Cody Rhodes to nap time as he does, and I just I said this last week, and obviously it came to fruition. So I don't even think I'm not speaking like I'm all of a sudden just this great predictor. All right, by
Hmm.
no means am I the great predictor. I've just watched the business for 2-3 decades, and it's predictable as shit. Okay, like none of this stuff. I could probably tell you what the freaking Clash in Italy card would be because it's just that predictable. But I digress. Maybe someday, and it happens every so often, that we're truly surprised by something, but it's rare. Okay, it's like seeing a ginger walk down the street. Okay, it's
Mm.
rare. A ginger
Oh,
just got his wings.
oh,
Um,
okay.
but now over to something less boring, but like, so we've seen the emergence of Ricky Saints to the main roster.
Hmm.
Um, and we have him face off against Matt Cardona. Obviously, them having slight history, but this is again with misused talent that Matt Cardona might as well go by Zack Ryder because it's insulting how WWE has used him. He might as well just be Zack Ryder. He might as well just be the woo 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 because
Hmm.
they're doing jack shit with his abilities. He went out of the Indies and he was the indie god, deathmatch god. He comes to WWE and he's doing jack shit, doing
You
nothing.
know, I he knows he knows why he was brought back in. He knows the role that he's been assigned to do. And if his goal is to return and to spend more time with his wife, and this is what they're gonna have him do, all right, fine, whatever. We've talked about this very similar thing before. Hey, you know what? You just want me to be a jobber for putting over other talent and that pays how much? Yeah, I want to be on TV. I want to have those opportunities. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Do I know how good I am and how I can be better off somewhere else? Of course, but I was somewhere else and I always wanted to come back here. So he knows what he signed up for. We
But
appreciate his work outside of that. It's just disappointing because we saw his work outside of it and we saw how he has grown. So I'm not mad at Zack Ryder and him,
yeah,
how he's being used. He knows what he signed up for. And with that being said, I mean, if that's the job and it pays that much, then shit, hell, that's the job and that's what it pays because that's where he wanted to be.
yeah, it's and well, and the thing is, and I've not. I mean, if and that's kind of the assumption of why he's back. It kind of makes sense. It it's just unfortunate that I feel like we haven't really had any like confirmation of that. But it's like I really think that he should have just if he was gonna come back and do this, just be Zack Ryder, dude.
You know,
I mean, and it's because the character he played as, Zack Ryder, and all of that. This is about what we're getting. And obviously Matt Cardona is his real name, so it's like, I mean, maybe that's just what he wanted, and that was part of the deal,
you know
I
what?
guess.
If that was part of the deal, and he's still coming back to do like the Zack Ryder type thing, but he's coming back as Matt Cardona, and that was his win. Besides being, back in the WWE,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what? Because it sometimes it's just like you just want to you've proven everything that you
Yeah.
needed to do. Like if they would have said like, hey, you gotta to Cody Rhodes, hey, you gotta come back to WWE, but we want you to be Stardust again, would he have said yes? Hell no, he wouldn't have said yes. He waited years for them to like um let him use the Rhodes last name. It was cool for Brandy, but it wasn't cool for him. And he went out there and he made a name for himself without it. And he
Yeah.
did. So, you know what?
Kind of just sounds like you're basically saying like, the Zack Ryder character is done,
I mean, yeah,
and this is just who he wants to be,
yep.
and
And if this is
you
the
know what?
role,
Let it ride.
yep, this is the role. Like we both have the same understanding. Like, you know, you've paid me this, you're paying me this much to do a job, and I'm back with the company in that way. Fine, all right, cool. You know what?
Third
I'm
string
still,
quarterback pays what?
yeah, yep, exactly. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do this job. Do I want to do more? Do I know I need to like prove myself again to this new ownership, new creative, new
Yeah.
fans? All right, cool. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, again, I'm not mad about it. I think a lot of other people are incredibly disappointed um that he's not doing some of the work that he did on the indies. However, it's WWE. So you're lucky they brought him back and that,
Bring back the hardcore championship.
yeah, that's never gonna happen. So let what happened on the indies be enjoyed and remembered, and just let these athletes, these contracted performers and entertainers uh make a living, and we just support it, and we do our absolute best to we just do our absolute best to like enjoy that with
Yeah.
them, because
Yeah.
it
I mean,
could be a lot worse.
and well, and the cool thing is that, like, I mean, you could pretty much go on YouTube and see Zack Ryder's adventure on the Indies, and I think that the end game, I feel like, yeah, is probably just WWE, and he wanted, left WWE or got released. I wasn't sure exactly how that, because it was a while ago, but you know, and he went and did what he wanted to do, and now he just wanted to come back home, and maybe that's just really what it is. I think, like, he started in WWE, and obviously he had ventured off and did other things.
Mhm.
Um and maybe that's just what it was, man. The indie shit was his bucket list, and he did it, and now he's just kind of back saying, eh, third string quarterback, how much again?
Yep.
So,
And he gets to
he'll run
spend
with it.
time with his wife. I
Yeah.
mean, shit. Hell,
Yeah.
you know what? I mean,
Oh,
it's just unfortunate that you bring a guy back and you saw the work that he did, and you would hope that it would be different the second time around, and it just proves that it isn't different the second time around, and you're just
yeah.
kind of like you're just disappointed.
Yeah. Well, speaking of disappointments, so the women's tag team division essentially has been quite hot in pretty much the last probably 6 months. And obviously it was fun when Charlotte and Alexa were champion because it gave us something different, and that's what we all crave is something
Mhm.
different. And you took two people that were established veterans who were polar opposite as characters, but somehow came together. And I really think those two are honestly the catalyst for me for what the women's tag team division is now. Because you brought together the pairing of Nia Jackson and Lash Legend, because I think that, Lash Legend is an amazing athlete, and I think it's good because she's already established herself as the character she is, and she does it very well, the bougie bully.
Mhm.
And she is phenomenal. And obviously to pair with Nia Jax, who it's like, it's just basically like two assholes getting together and be like, we're gonna do asshole things because we can, because
Yep.
that's just how we operate and that's how we work.
Mhm.
And and obviously we got the come ups of Fatal Influence, which was exciting because I know I always dogged on JC Jane about not getting her call up, but she's here now and she's making the best of it. But Brie Bella and Paige as tag team champions and like having matches, and Brie Bella is just not that good. Like I like she essentially rode the coattails of her sister, and Paige is phenomenal. Okay. It's sad that she can come back after 8 years and still be one of the younger one on the roster. And I think I want to see Paige independently
Mm.
because she is that good and her character is that good, and she's over with the crowd because that's her personality, and it's authentically her. It's not like, it really isn't some like gimmick she's playing. It's her mentality is, this is my house. And
Mhm.
it's very authentic, and I feel like, that's a probably once in probably every, I'll say 15 to 20 wrestlers where they're authentically truly over by just being themselves. But yeah, I want this tag team thing to run its course, um, and move on. Nikki Bella, obviously, she has wrestling IQ. I don't take that away from her, but like as this whole tag team thing, like I'm already over it.
Yeah, well, if Nikki hadn't gotten hurt, I mean, shit,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean she's as hurt as I am, because I
Yeah.
honestly, like, I think the injury stuff is really just kind of BS because they showed her like at another event and like not on crutches or anything and jumping around, and it's just like, man, you got to stay in character, man. You got to full Alistair Black that with your eye, man. Like, like you, you're not very good at staying in character, and I think that's a problem nowadays, though. Like some people, it's like they play, and obviously, like you don't want to be a dick in real life as you are as a performer, but like, um, but it's like I yeah, the character just doesn't work for me, but um. So obviously, we had Fatal Influence face off against Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss. And obviously, with the help of Jade Cargill and her squad, we'll call them.
Mhm.
Um, and so I feel like we're definitely, you know, by the recipe that we've seen a million times, is we're going to get a rematch between Rhea and Jade, probably at Clash in Italy.
Which I think
You
is all right.
know, and that's fine with me. But I also like, I again, Jade Cargill is playing the Jade Cargill character, and she's doing whatever they have for her, um, in regards to storylines. Now, I feel like the SmackDown stuff has run its course. I feel like they need to move over to like Raw, and I don't even know if they're actually on Raw or SmackDown. That's the kicker of it all because I really don't. Um, and so I think maybe they need to move on to something else. And obviously, if we get this Clash in Italy match, obviously, like I hope Rhea just retains, and then Jade can go move on to something else. Um, and it's nothing against her personally. I think that like you know her character's a little bit rough around the edges. But again, I mean, she's only doing what she's told, and like that's the kicker. Like, I know I'm
Yeah.
the most critical person on this podcast when it comes to her, but like, I don't fault her completely. Just because again, you're just doing the character you're told to portray
Hmm.
and run with it. Now, you know, now for me and my thought process, what about BFAB and Mia Yim? Um, what if they drift off and maybe try some tag team stuff? And not that,
They
and
should already be a tag team,
yeah, I
but
mean and then they're playing the lackeys at this point, and and again, like they're on the very low end of what they get paid because they don't really have much storyline, they don't really have much presence. They're just they're more of an attraction than they are talent. And it's
so
unfortunate it's unfortunate, but yeah.
yeah, so they're doing that thing with Jade Cargill that they did in AEW where they had her with a couple of other um talents to make Jade seem more intimidating. You see that with JC Jane and Fatal Influence with the other two girls. I think one of them's name is Fallon. But you know it's what wrestling does when they want to like make the heel look more dominant. It's like, you're with me. I mean, look at it. Chad Gable and the Creed brothers, they do the same thing with them. So it's a trope. It's what they do. It's not something that I am like a fan of, but I get it. uh it is it is what it is. Um
Yeah.
I you know what, I don't know what the Raw, or I don't know what the women's roster needs, but I think having BFAB and Meechin with Jade Cargill, at least we know that they're still with WWE, and we know that they're still investing in those two and Jade Cargill by having her with this in this roster. So um yeah, just I would, let's see if there's going to be an implosion and have both of those women turn on Jade before Jade turns on them. Um it's almost the same thing like Roman Reigns and the Usos minus the family bloodline. Roman has to have, two two people to like do his dirty work. Jade's got to have the
I
same
mean
thing.
it's
It's kind of the same trope. So I would want to see them break off and do their own thing at some point as a tag team. I thought that's what we were working with Meechin and B-Fab a few months ago, before they had the pairing with Jade. Um,
yeah, I think my problem is though is that Meechin and BFAB they're floating around in the ether. Like they don't. And unfortunately, obviously, Meechin has a little more history, but like BFAB was always kind of a background character. But like, I don't think they have any star power, and it's unfortunate. Obviously, I mean, BFAB has been shuffled around more times than a deck at a poker table, but like Meechin, obviously, when she was with the OC, when she was with the Good Brothers, when she was with AJ Styles. She had that more of an aura, but it's like as soon as she kind of drifted into the background, it was a detriment to her character development and to her, star power and her putting on good matches. And I mean, they're just background characters, and it kind of sucks because I feel like they could do so much more. Um, I could see Michin as, the women's intercontinental champion or the United States champion or, them as tag team. I mean, but if they don't start shaking things up, it's gonna be to the WWE TKO detriment that people are just gonna kind of like walk out. But speaking of walking out, obviously we've seen Royce Keys finally have some matches, and WWE honestly pissed off a lot of people. And if you want to check out videos on it, you can see in the background of the Gingerbread Man funeral to be the last segment of the go home show to Backlash, which is the stupidest thing they possibly could have done. And there was a lot of fan walkout. There was bulks of people, probably well over 150 people, probably just dipped. And that's in it's like this gingerbread funeral bullshit. Like, come on, man. Like, that's something you asked Alexa, what do you think is a good way to end a show? And she's like, yeah, do a gingerbread man funeral. Like, I mean, what a waste of space. What a waste of time. People don't want to come to these shows to have these shoddy, dumbass segments, especially ending the show and especially being the go home everything to Backlash. And it did nothing for the match in its entirety by the end of it. So I just I don't understand. I don't
it's pretty
understand. I
frustrating.
don't understand.
Yeah, it's
Now,
pretty frustrating.
so basically, okay, so we'll roll. I want to get to Backlash, but I also kind of want to roll through a couple things. And so, like, what are your thoughts as far as the validity of the releases versus just actual releases versus not agreeing to a contract? And then, we also have all the NXT call-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's just like they're replenishing the herd. But it's unfortunate that a lot of this stuff is all contract. It's all like, I don't want to take a pay cut, because a lot of people that got released really weren't. There was no Roman Reigns on that list. There was no CM Punk on that list. There was no Cody Rhodes. There was no Damian. Like, there was no top guys. So those top guys, yeah, I'd be like, oh, I'm making 15. Oh, I gotta make $7.5 million now. Whatever. I'm still making money. But like for the bottom tier, it's like a pay cut is detriment.
Yeah, because they've got to pay for all those things. And I saw a couple of reports online of like what what happens, what the contracted talent is responsible for, what what they all have to do, and when you are a contractor and someone comes in and says like, hey, I need to change our rate from, what is it, 70-30 to like, 50-50, that hurts. That 20% that you're missing hurts. It's not my fault that,
Well,
you're not, you're not doing your thing very well. So why do I have to suffer? And especially when you like re-signed me to a new contract at a at a high rate, but yet you like decided you don't want to do any other incentives to utilize my time. That's a you problem. No, I'm not. I'm not taking a pay cut because of how you feel. Now some guys in talent, let's just say some talent, are just be like, you know what, yeah, because I need the stability, or I know that I am one match away from breaking out of the role that you currently have me for into a whole new role. I'm, one opportunity away, and I believe in myself and believe in this company enough to do that. And some people are just like, absolutely not. I've invested, and I know my worth, and I'm not going to accept anything less than that. So yeah, I'm
And the biggest problem with all of this contract bullshit that it is that TKO board, some of WWE execs, all got ridiculous raises, and they don't even put asses in seats.
yeah.
And so I don't I know I've seen it in a video, but like I'll just run. So Ari Emanuel, obviously CEO and chair of TKO, $67.4 million. Total includes a $3 million base salary, 11.88 million bonus, and $44 million in stock. His package surged 272% from 2024. Mark Shapiro, president and COO, 42.6 million base salary for 12.5 million bonuses, significant stock awards. His is only a 33% increase, but either way, it increased while everybody else's are decreasing. Nick Khan, WWE president, 24.3 million, 2 million base salary, 11.5 million in stock awards, over 10 million in bonuses, with 7 million tied to WWE adjusted, and an extra 3.75 million discretionary bonuses and launching. Andrew CFO, 23.1 million. Jeff Hirsch, 6.7 million. These executives are getting paid out the ass, and they're getting increases while they want to decrease talent. Like
Mhm.
I honestly, with the way things are going, and I hypothetically, what would they do if all of a sudden the wrestlers just didn't show up? It wouldn't happen because everybody wants their job and they're too big of pussies to do the strong things. But like,
Mhm.
I mean, would that be mind boggling if the wrestlers just didn't show up? And then they have to deal with the reality.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're gonna like go outside of the WWE headquarters and picket signs. I wouldn't blame them if they did, but it's like it's to the point where it seems like it's basically either take a pay cut or sayonara. And it's like I feel like it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse and worse and worse since TKO took over. It's like they're making money hand over fist, just sitting in offices doing jack shit, really, because
Mhm.
they have underlings beneath them doing the real work. Everybody in the office while the guy is sitting in the big chair, freaking twiddling his thumbs playing Candy Crush, while everybody else does the work and he gets the benefit.
Right.
And like that's how it is with talent right now. It's that
Mhm.
they're the ones that are putting in the work. They're going to the gym. They're putting on these matches. They're doing all the legwork, and they're getting shit on for it. And it's like, and in UFC, honestly, is not what it once was. UFC's on a downtrend, at least last I checked. In WWE, I mean, with all these ticket prices and all this other crap, it's becoming more of a likelihood that they very possibly, not
Mhm.
probable, but probably could be a possibility of them just saying, fuck you. Bring back Vince McMahon, fuck TKO, get disattached from them. And there's going to be a bring back Vince chant because this was never a thing underneath Vince McMahon. Never a thing. There just wasn't. And it's total power is total corrupt. And these guys and girls are putting their bodies on the line 2-3 nights a week while the other guys are sitting in the comfy chair collecting all the benefits. And it's disingenuous, it's unfair, it's disrespectful flat out. But you know, I just have to in my mind think that there has to be some kind of pushback by the roster. But it's like they're caught between I need to pay my bills and you know, like they're caught between a rock and a hard place. And it's unfortunate. They're basically getting strong armed. I mean, it's well, if you don't want to work, you're bye. You know,
that's
it's it's it sucks. And obviously, like I'm gonna sit here and do a podcast about WWE, even though like you know, I'm about 1 year of bullshit away from just going to watch AEW and do an AEW podcast because there's just too much shit going on in WWE for like for me to invest in the product.
Right. There's a lot of things that have changed. And a lot of people are revolting against those changes because it's not enjoyable when it seems like there's been a regression since the time that VKM left the company. And what we have now, there was that short lull where everybody was just praising creative and things that were going really well. And now it seems like it's regressed back to that feeling, that vibe, and that energy of, is Vince running the show again? You know, we see a lot of releases, we see a lot of misuse of what we're perceiving as misuse of talent. So we're trying to figure out, what's going on.
Yeah, and I don't
Because
think I don't think it's a lack of money either because they probably have 50 sponsors, you know, that are paying them very handsomely. And it's you have all this money coming in. You can't tell me you don't because the executives are getting these massive bonuses and raises. So the money's there, but you're not dispersing it evenly. And I'm not saying obviously like everybody gets paid the same and whatever else. And I get the top tier mid card. I get that mentality, but like it's like it's we talked about beforehand is that like it's like these oil companies making record profits while the consumers that need gas in their cars we're getting strong armed because well we got to go to work every day. You know, I do Lyft and Uber and stuff, and so like I got to put gas in my car. I got to basically spend money to make money, and so they basically have you by the wallet, and so it's unfortunate. But now Backlash honestly wasn't that bad. I thought it could have been better. I would probably I haven't seen an A level PLE in a while. And this obviously I would probably linger it with like a B minus. And like I said leading up to this is that the only thing that makes this show good was Roman and Jacob. Period.
So so my take, it was Asuka and Io Sky that made the show. Was Roman and Jacob entertaining? Yes. Did we see the tongue and death grip way too much? Yes. The after match chaos and whining and complaining by Roman, it's, you know what,
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to base it off of like the caliber and like the impact, like emotionally, yeah, Io Sky Asuka 100%. 100%. And just because it was definitely a very heartfelt moment. It was real people experiencing real emotion, because I mean it's there's not a lot of Japanese wrestlers in WWE. We have the Samoans, we have, the Mexican, Puerto Rican, Brazilian, well, like whatever, South America basically. And, the impact in its entirety that Asuka has had on the business since she's been in it is through the roof. And it was nice that they had a real moment at the end of the match. And, it was no more, it wasn't Asuka the character, it was Asuka the human being.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is the tail end of her career, I see moving forward with putting her in the WWE Hall of Fame next year. Um, and I think that would be well deserved. Just because she had an impact on WWE, but she also had a impact globally. So, but so the night kicked off with Backlash having Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins. I mean, honestly, this is the match where like you kind of already had your anticipation for what it was going to be, and obviously it was a good kickoff match. I'll give it that much. Just because again, long-term stories make the best matches, and the back and forth exchanges they had from the mic standpoint, not the physicality. There was a lot of depth to it. This is definitely not over. Um, I think I would honestly say with certainty we're probably going to run this back.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I don't know how many times or when, but I think it's definitely there's still gas in the tank for this. Now the next match we had Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn, and I outside interference just drives me nuts. And I know a lot of people have really been chirping about the overusage of celebrities, and not that I have anything against Lil Yachty, but I feel like it needs to run its course. It honestly, Trick Williams is obviously, and what's weird is Trick Williams is the face in this match, which is honestly kind of mind-boggling. Even with like the outside interference, somehow Trick is still the face and Sammy was the heel. But I want to see Sammy more heel. Because it was like authentic, right? Like it was frustration. He was pissed off. He was irritated. He did what a lot of people have told him to do, and that's you win by any means necessary. And if we get the Sami Zayn that is going to do whatever he has to do to get back in that United States Championship picture, he's going to do it, right? Like I think there'll honestly be some kind of battle royal, some kind of gauntlet match or something for the men's United States Championship. I don't think it's going to be a direct. We're not going to run it back for a trifecta,
Right.
At least on paper. But there's also some inklings of where's Carmelo Hayes, and he was all of a sudden in the picture, and now he's kind of been off TV for a while. I don't know if it's injury or creative development or just taking some time off. I don't know.
You know what? It could be any number of things. Same with WWE. It could be any number of things. I mean, you just don't know with them right now.
Yeah. Now, speaking of don't know, so we had The Miz and Kit Wilson versus Danhausen in a mystery partner, which WWE. So we get Danhausen coming out, and he has his clone machine, whatever, and we get Minihausen. And I felt like this could have been a Raw or SmackDown thing. I don't think this was worthy of PLE. But it was entertaining. And if I view it from being entertained, it knocked it out of the park. Because there was multiple Minihausens, and it was just fun. And it was literally kind of in the middle of the whole thing. So I mean, it was that good reprieve, I guess. And I just don't want them to overdo the Danhausen effect. You know, I don't want it to get started to get very mundane and very boring. You know, because we've said this about a lot of when you overdo the wrestler or you overdo what they're doing, you know, you kind of become complacent. You're like, yep, we already kind of know this was like, it becomes less entertaining because it's more predictable.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I don't know exactly what their plans are for Danhausen.
They're gonna do whatever they can to make so much money off of him as fast as they can, because that's what they do.
They're just ringing the chamois for all it's worth.
Yep.
They're gonna squeeze every bit of dollars they can get out of him, and you know, and therein lies the problem. It's like, you know, you're stuck between I want to have a job and I want to be on TV and I want to entertain people in the profession I love. But so the next match, obviously, the night was the Io Sky and Asuka. Obviously, Io Sky getting the win in this, but Asuka won your heart. All right, like in all seriousness, like, you know, it was nice to see a heartfelt moment, and yeah, so I think that was cool. Now, John Cena comes out and does what John Cena does. He's corporate Cena now, suit and tie Cena, bald spot wearing, hair growth not working, corporate John Cena introduces the John Cena Classic. And this is apparently a thing where he's going to do these matchups between NXT and the main roster, kind of the future versus the present, which is irrelevant right now. This is stupid because you've just moved up a bunch of NXT to the main roster. And there's really not much left down in NXT that I would say holds any value in putting in this tournament, because the ones that matter are here now.
Well,
you know,
you know what?
I mean, seriously, like the women's division down in NXT right now is very bleak now because of obviously the call-ups, and the men's division is, you know, they have a smothering of wrestlers, but it's like, you know, all the Ethan Page and Ricky Sainz, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans move up, and there's really, I still watch NXT religiously, but like, there's not a lot left there that's going to be worthy of being in this John Cena Classic. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll pick out the right guys. I don't know. They didn't really say much if this was a guy and a girl thing or not. Really didn't establish that. Just completely just lifted up Obafemi and bragged about him, which justifiably so. You know, he's prime reason, you know what, like, you know, going through the system and doing your best and working hard gets you. I take nothing away from that. It's just this John Cena Classic thing just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because there's already a lot that's not happening in WWE on the rosters as it is right now, right? The titles are really like the women's secondary titles are very wishy-washy. The women's tag division is strong. Now the top tier is kind of wishy-washy because Liv is just a bad decision, to quote her own music. But like and then on the flip side, and you have Rhea, which obviously I'm fine with Rhea, but like I don't think they already are underutilizing what they have to make a tournament or to make a John Cena Classic, whatever you want to call it. Like you could lose the match and still win the blah, blah. Like I think the John Cena Classic is a title basically like Crown Jewel, but like you're already like underbooking what you have. You know, you have literally what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 titles, 10 titles, you know, that you already have that you don't have space for. So if this little John Cena Classic was just a PLE, I'd be fine with it. That's fine.
Yeah. So,
but to take up time off of the main roster is beyond me.
So I think it could be good content. It could be a good story because you could see where the fans want to go, or at least in theory. Two, it does give the opportunity for newer talent to shine. Because the veterans are going to probably try to put themselves over. But it is a what the fans vote on. If the fan voting is actually taken into account, it's a popularity contest. It is a giant popularity contest. That's what it could boil into. Again, I don't have a problem with this until I actually see how they execute on it. Once I see how they execute on it, then I can have my criticisms. But right now with WWE and all the things that they've shown over the past 9 months, I don't know. I don't know what to expect, and be confident in saying, yeah, that seems practical.
So the men's roster has 31 wrestlers and the women have 18. And on the men's, literally 3/4 of them are not important to me. Now, the guys that I could see going to this tournament, I don't know how many guys it's going to be. If I'm looking at the roster in its entirety right now, is that I'm looking at the 2 guys from LFG that are on the main roster because those guys stand out. So you have Jasper Troy, which won season 1, I believe. Kiana Carver, I think, was 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Miles Bourne and Tony D'Angelo, and that's about it. I see 4 guys, 5 guys tops. In the women's side, I mean, I see 1, 2, 3, 5. So like I don't know how this tournament is going to go as far as male or female, but I don't see a lot, and I don't see enough guys on the main roster that are in obscurity to sidetrack to something else. And again,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to be like its own thing. I don't know. They haven't really said much about it, and they haven't really presented any, maybe tomorrow we get some, involvement to see who's what. But so the main event of Backlash obviously was Roman and Jacob.
Mhm.
Just honestly a good straight up match. Obviously pretty piss poor of Jacob to overuse the move,
Yeah.
the tongue and death grip, and it was too much. And it's like too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
Just like
was
we're
it
concerned with Danhausen. Yep. So yeah,
and
I agree.
so whatever with that match. Now the overall thing that I think pissed off a lot of people
Mhm.
is that this PLE with all this new ESPN bullshit has commercials. Why
Mhm.
the fuck am I paying if you don't have the bundle? If you're paying 30 fucking bucks a month for still having commercials, it's like the same thing when I purchased when I already had when I was like, okay, NXT's or Raw is gonna be on Netflix. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do the no commercials. And then I have that package and they still fucking do commercials. So
Yeah.
so you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4. You're getting 5 match. So you basically cost you $6 a match to watch, and you get fucking commercials. And it wasn't during the matches, but it was like in between shit. But it's
You know,
like, are
yeah.
you that money hungry that on top of the 500 freaking sponsors you have across the mat, outside the ring, on the fucking tables, on Dominic Mysterio's lower part of his shirt, like what's next? Why do you
It's
need
all
commercials?
everything is on the table. This is not Vince's WWE. And
No.
and you know what? Okay, fine. Let's we'll we'll see how long it takes for them to utterly destroy what we have been used to and try to rebuild something new.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people will accept it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll figure this out, but we will put a pin in this as we do. And, we'll be back next week to break down whatever we get stuck with on Monday and Friday and see how this tournament thing is supposed. I don't know if it's a tournament or what it fucking is, but the John Cena Classic, hopefully we get some more information. So
Yeah.
this is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.